Thank you to all those who are put this together. It's a privilege for a church to be able to host this gathering, and we've done so for a decade plus. John, Pete, Foster, to all those that took your registration. This is just simply the right thing to do for a church, and we're grateful. And by you giving your time, that's a pretty precious resource. So I'm more than certain that the return on the investment of your time will be profound. So they give me a chance just to say a few words and open us up in prayer. And what I was thinking this morning is that, again, I don't know where your thoughts and your feelings are right now. No doubt some of you are grateful simply to be here, to not be alone, to prayerfully come to a place where you can get some help. Some of you are really just kind of wondering, how the heck am I here again? Your thoughts are heavy. Your feelings are uncertain. And I'm sure that there's some in between you, in between those two places. Circumstances matter. There's no doubt about that. But what matters most, I think, is attitude. There's a saying that goes, circumstances are no more responsible for your attitude than a mirror is responsible for your looks. All circumstances do is reflect back an attitude, just like a mirror. All it does is reflect back your looks. So attitude is a really fundamental piece to navigate life through. And our founding pastor, Pastor Swindoll, wrote something that I want to share with you this morning, and hopefully it'll sink in, again, wherever you are. This is what he wrote. The longer I live, the more I realize the impact of attitude on life. Attitude, to me, is more important than facts. It's more important than the past, than education, than money, than circumstances, than failures, than successes, than what other people think, say, or do. It is more important than appearance, giftedness, or skill. It will make or break a company, a church, a home, or an individual. The remarkable thing is that we have a choice every day regarding the attitude we embrace for that day. We cannot change our past. We cannot change the fact that people will act in a certain way. We cannot change the inevitable. The only thing we can do is play the one string we have, and that is our attitude. I am convinced that life is 10% of what happens to me and 90% how I react to it. And so it is with you. We are in charge of our attitudes. Really, I think, crafted those words well. And so, again, I don't know your circumstances, but if you're in that place where you're feeling like your attitude is in a really dark place, a lonely place, I want to remind you of something. So if I gave Foster this dollar bill, and he'd take it. I know Foster. There's no doubt in my mind Foster would take it. But if I did this to this dollar bill, Foster would still take it. The reason he would take it is that I can go into any place. You could go any place, and it was stamped worthy. In fact, I could bring it to a bank, and they'd give me a brand new one. There is an agreement that this has value because it's been stamped. And so no matter where your attitude is, I believe you've been stamped. I believe that you have been considered worthy. I believe that you have value, and that no matter what the circumstances are telling you, no matter where your attitude is, I pray that you leave this place knowing that you've been stamped worthy And no matter what circumstances do to you, they step on it, they rip it, they throw it down, they cannot take away your value. And so wherever your attitude is right now, I pray that that's what you hold on to, no matter what navigates, no matter how you're navigated through this day, that you are worthy and you have value because you've been stamped and sealed with that value. Father, I'm grateful that we get the privilege of hosting this. Lord, I simply ask that you do more with this time than whatever any of the facilitation the leaders are going to do. Lord, I don't know where the souls are of all that are gathered in this room, but you do, and I'll trust that. So move in a way that would undeniably know that your presence is here. And simply bless all those that will come to this stage, bless all the conversations that we'll have. Lord, and thank you for stamping us as value. Thank you for not taking that away, no matter what the circumstances have. We are simply grateful that you have given us value and worth. We ask all this in your great and powerful name. Amen. Thanks, guys. Have a great morning. If there's anything we can do as a church, we're grateful. You want that $1, Foster? You coming to get the $1, right?
I want that $1. That's a special $1
there
now.
You go, buddy.
Thanks, Steve.
Foster.
I love that analogy. It's true. You know, I get a chance to meet all of you guys, and you're worth more than $1. Don't you think? Yeah, hold on to that. I used to move a lot faster, guys, but my mouth still goes at the same speed. So I'm Foster Williams, guys. I've been a recruiter for a long time. I don't want to tell you guys how long time that's been because you'll know that I'm from the Mesozoic era. But I love this network. I have been involved in this network for quite a while. And there's all sorts of people, I'm looking at them, that make up this network. There are some people I want you guys to meet. One of them has already been introduced, and that's Trevor. And you guys need to meet Trevor and talk to him. And wow, there's some people that I haven't seen in a while. I'm convinced of something, y'all. I shouldn't be pointing this at y'all, should I? Yeah, you know it is. But you know what happens? I'm not seeing a lot of logic. I meet you guys, and I know you guys' worth, and I'm like, really? You companies got rid of, because it's all about money, and it's not about us anymore. So, but you know what? We all belong to God. Those people that make us think, if you guys are thinking this, those people that make us think that we're not quite worth what we used to be, those are not the people that made us. They're not the people that made us. And I'm $1 richer by coming here. I love it. It's an ugly $1, but it works. And so do you guys. And you're going to work again. Every one of you, there I go pointing again. Every one of you guys are going to go back to work. Now, what we want to ask, and we already have, ask God to put us in the right place that we can make what he put us down here for, that we can go and accomplish that thing. Because he is thinking about all of us and how we work this thing together, which when you look at the news, this thing ain't working too good. You know, not all the time, but none of you guys have I met. None of you guys I'm looking at right now look like you've missed a meal. Anyway, okay, I'm supposed to be introducing you guys to people. There is Ron Layton right there. Ron runs the pit crew. Do you guys know what the pit crew is? Practice interview team. So a lot of you guys get a job that you're all excited about, and they want to talk to me. And you want to put forth your best foot in that interview. So Ron and his team will help you guys do that. So you guys make sure and meet Ron at the break. Okay, Mike Chapman's here. Where's Mike? There's Mike back there with Trevor. And who else is back there? Jeff is back there. Where's Mike? Wait a minute. The lights are in my face, Mike. Mike is my prayer buddy, guys. I thought, Mike, I could have swore you were back there with those guys. I see Bob. Bob doesn't have his four-legged friend with him this morning. Yeah. So let's get back to Mike, you guys. If you guys have any questions about insurance or anything that's going on as far as that goes, maybe you're going to take a contract and you want to find out about what is available for you by way of medical insurance, all kind of things. Mike Chapman is your man. Chapman, CHAPMAN. Find him on LinkedIn and connect with him. Say Foster ran his big mouth at that meeting. And I want to talk to you about whatever it is you want to talk to him about. Okay. Where is Angela Rose? There. Angela, guys, we like meeting recruiters, and we seem to bring the best recruiters to Frisco Connect. Angela is with S&H Search, and you guys talk to her. She's got a number of jobs open right now. She doesn't want me to bring her up here. She's like, Foster, don't do that to me. I don't blame you. But I'm surprised that I'm up here. But you know what? Meet Angela and find out what she's got going on. Find out about S&H Church. Has got a lot going on right now. There's a lot of things that are going on in corporate America that we don't always see, but it's people like Angela, myself, other people that serve the community in that respect. So go and meet Angela and connect with her on LinkedIn, of course. Rose is her last name. You guys think you can remember? Can you spell that? Okay. Now, Jeff Morris, I pointed at him. Jeff is the founder of careerdfw.org and careerusa.org. So you want to find out what this network is and the components of this network. We got information about this group, other groups. You can find the pit crew, other things. I'm always bragging on this network. It's all there. It's GPS for your job search. It really is. And Jeff Morris is his last name, Morris. Connect with him as well. Jeff's probably, God, your LinkedIn may be full of folks. You got room for some more? Okay, good. Let's see who else I'm free. Bob Ernst is back there. Bob has been with us for a while. Bob is standing up. Yeah, absolutely. You guys need to meet Bob. He has been around the investment industry forever. He is with Edward Jones. And but beyond Edward Jones, he's got a lot of information to share with you guys, questions and things that you guys might have had about a number of different things when it comes to finances. So Bob Ernst is his last name. A lot of you guys recognize that last name, Ernst. He is not related to that family. He probably doesn't want to be related to that family. I'm not knocking him, y'all. So Ernst & Young is a company you guys might want to check out and see if they got some opportunities over there for you, because it's a good company. It really is. It's not Bob's company, but every time I see Bob, it's always Foster Word Association. Okay. I'm about to shut up and sit down and get out of you guys' face so you can hear from Nikki. And, okay, who am I forgetting? I mentioned Jeff and careerdfw.org and Career USA. I love careerusa.org. When I first started building this network that we call the Career Search Network, everybody wanted to know what was going on in Texas. And so they called Jeff and they called me and they said, hey, what are you guys doing? And how are you guys doing it? Now it's spread out. This network that we're talking about right now, that we're just a part of here, there I go pointing again. It is, I bet you we're in 20, did you say about 20 states, Jeff? Yeah, and there's information on careerusa.org about that kind of thing. Okay, Pete is with us. Pete is our real leader here. Pete keeps me and John in order. And I'm probably forgetting something, because when Pete comes walking up to me, I know I've forgotten something. I'm going to hand you this because I know you've always got something good to say.
anything much to say. I think you did a good job covering everything.
I can't do it without Pete. Honest.
No, I'll mention, thank you. I'll mention real quick, I mean, you've already mentioned the pit crew. I can't recommend that enough. Guys, get out there. All of you probably think you interview well. I can tell you right now, no, you don't. Get out there, go with these folks. The one thing you don't get during any interview you go on is proper feedback. These guys, with the panel they have, they'll give you feedback, honest feedback that you can improve upon and ace that next interview. So I also want to mention, since we got about 5 minutes before I put Nikki up here, any of you that are in IT, we have a 9 o'clock in the morning IT group that meets every Tuesday. It's hybrid, and you go to that career DFW calendar that Jeff created, and you'll see it there. If you're in project management, supply chain management, business analysis, we have a 9 o'clock Wednesday meeting that you can join as well and network there. And again, careerdfw.org has the 9 o'clock in the morning. That's online only. And then this buddy and I will be doing our HR thing tomorrow morning. We do that on the first and third Wednesdays at 10 a.m. So, and by the way, you do not have to be in HR to join us.
I
But
want to talk about target companies again. That was a real good presentation you did yesterday.
okay, we can do that.
Yeah.
So I encourage you guys to get out to these different kinds of networking groups and join us. We also have a creative group called Magic that our buddy Jason back there helped start. And so if you're in the creative space, and that includes marketing, video production, anything has to do with creativity, talk to Jason. He'll get you hooked up. They meet over at White's Chapel in South Lake, and unfortunately that is in person only. So whatever we can help you with, folks, please. Recently I had a call from a friend of mine that a coach called, so-called career coach, called her, and I'll make the story short. At the end of the conversation, they wanted to charge her $15,000 to do the things that we do here for absolutely free.
Only 10,000 here.
Yeah. So, and he only gets 99%. So, anyway, seriously, I say that only because I need you guys to appreciate, because even the pit crew now, if you've been to the pit crew at least once, then they actually offer consulting services now, interview consulting for free. And between all of us, South Lake, this group, Friday with Jeff Morris, the amount of free coaching you get here and advice compared to what they're charging in the open market, please take advantage of it. Please do.
Honestly.
Yeah, it really is. So we got a couple minutes. You have something, John?
I just want to add one comment. Is we got feedback in the past of why we don't have this set up where people of a like industry can sit in groups together, and we're a general networking group. We try to offer information and encouragement to all people regardless of their industry. We're a general group, and as Pete referred to, careerdfw.org and friscoconnect.org, which Jason Millwright manages the friscoconnect.org and does a marvelous job. Awesome. The resources on careerdfw and friscoconnect.org, the resources on those sites will give you a look at all the different activities similar to this, and as Pete mentioned, some of the what we call SIGs, special interest groups, of like-minded individuals who are pursuing a particular industry or whatnot. Those groups meet in the DFW area also, and so you've got access to all of that with a couple of clicks on your computer or your phone or your iPad, whatever, to locate what's going on and to be able to go to those groups and build your network even further, but more specific in the area that you're pursuing. So I want to make sure we emphasize that.
All right, I think we're ready to go. You want to introduce Nikki? You want me to?
I'll let you introduce Nikki. I know Nikki, but I'm going to let him introduce. There's one thing I want to tell you guys before we get started. I'm going to be expeditious with my explanation. So, big words, huh? My mom would give me a quarter for that word. So, y'all, you're doing the right thing. What are you talking about, Foster? We've got all this technology and AI and all of this stuff that we are concerned about in our job search. Those are tools. And I'm going to point at you guys again when I say those are tools. This is how we get it done, guys. You meet people and you build relationships with a person. And you know what? If another person shows up with the same kind of background and all that kind of stuff, Foster knows Ron Layton. I'm going to hire Ron because I know Ron. Does that make sense? I'm simple. I'm from McGregor, Texas. Believe me, ain't no PhDs in my family. So, guys, you're doing the right thing. Get to know each other. Get to know these people that give of themselves like Angela Rose to get out and assist you guys. There is a spirit to what we do, and that spirit is helping one person every day. Okay, I'm going to shut up. Pete, where you at? There you go. This
All right.
lady right here. Introduce that lady.
So we get people coming through this network, obviously, over the years, thousands. And some people take it upon themselves to give back while they're on their own job search. So Nikki Duncan is one of these people, and she approached us about, hey, I can put together a presentation to help others that are going through the same flight that she's going through. So Nikki has put together, this is the second presentation she's done for us, and so it is my pleasure to introduce Nikki Duncan. I'll let you talk about yourself and who you are, what you're looking for, and all that good stuff.
Okay.
But thank you for being here, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Check out the shoes, you guys. It's all about the shoes.
The shoes are how you show up, right? Yeah. They mic'd me, so y'all are in trouble. Wow, I am loud. So we already heard Pastor Steve talk about our value and how we all have value. And we've heard about mindset a little bit, and our thoughts on how we look at things and think of things really control how we approach things. When I came in this room, gosh, it's been about a year now since I first came here, and for a long time, those blue postcards on the table from Trevor, I ignored those for a long time. And I met Trevor, and we talked here, and I still ignored Trevor. I ignored Trevor's cards. And finally, now in my defense, I was ignoring Trevor while I was doing 3.5 years of a college education in 11 months. I was busy. So I was ignoring Trevor in that time, but as soon as I finished school, I jumped on Trevor's summit. It's a 1-hour webinar. The word summit sounds scary. It's not. And I connected with Trevor and really learned a lot of stuff. And some of what I talk about today, I did learn from Trevor. The biggest thing I learned from Trevor is get out of the bubble. He didn't put it that way, but that was the big, hard lesson. You gotta get out there. So if you want something different than what you have to do something different. And I'm not gonna tell you how to identify your value today. I'm going to assume you already know it. If you don't know it, there's a QR code on your table that'll take you to a presentation on Jeff's Career DFW, Career USA YouTube channel that'll tell you how I found my value, because I wasn't sure what it was. My job ended unexpectedly in 2024. It was January 2024, my boss walked into a meeting like all is normal and right, and nothing's changed, and she announced that she sold half of the business. And so we all asked her there, okay, so you sold that half of the business. What's happening to our half? And she said, nothing, we're not going anywhere. 90 days later, she walked in, again, all is normal. It's just a regular old Monday staff meeting. She walked in, we have the whole staff meeting, everybody's normal. And then she says, oh, by the way, in 90 days, this job ends. I had been there for 27 years. And so when that ended, I didn't lose my job because I was let go or anything. She was retiring, and I understood that. But it is a loss, and we grieve that loss, and it makes us doubt ourselves. And we're not going to talk about value, but I'm going to assume you know it. But that presentation down there will take you through what I did to rediscover my value so that I could communicate it moving forward. What we are going to talk about today is why visibility matters, why you have to do something different, how to share your expertise, but not your secret sauce. You don't want to give everything away for free, just teasers, right? How to use AI to craft stronger messaging, and some of the places that I personally find my content ideas and how I format and do things. Visibility is not vulnerability. It is your invitation into the room. And you have to own that. So when I started getting active, after I did Trevor's workshop and started listening to what he said, I started getting active and creating content on LinkedIn. You guys, it is not natural for me to be standing on this stage. I am not a public face person. This is not me. But I had to do something different, and I had to get out of my shell and my bubble. I spent 27 years in that job working in a 9x13 she shed on my property, and I almost never left. You got to get out of the room. You got to get into different rooms, even if those rooms are only online. Most of these rooms that I talk about on here are all online. I started creating content. Trevor talks about how creating content will bring you inbound leads instead of you always chasing people. And inbound leads, I was invited to speak on an international project management panel for APD Academy to an audience of 8,000. I was introduced by the moderator of that call, invited me to speak to her audience of 27,000 on another international panel. Trevor had me on his podcast. I've been on some other podcasts. I've spoken for the Fort Worth PMI chapter, the South Lake Focus Group. I have had 4, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I have had 4 inbound interviews from my social media content on LinkedIn. That is 4 people more than 0 who found my content engaging, reached out and said, hey, I like your content, can we talk? And then those connections have made other connections who've made other connections. So my network has grown, even though I didn't get a job from those, my network has grown from those. Most recently, I had a call from somebody I met in this room, and we got to know each other. And he called me not too long ago and made an introduction and got me nominated as a Woman of Impact nominee for the American Heart Association. So I'm currently running a fundraising campaign for that, which is getting me in a whole bunch of rooms with a whole bunch of people that I never would have met. It's been a lot of fun so far. Also recently, because I was creating content like Trevor said, even while I was going to school and hadn't really started framing it the way Trevor helps teach people to frame it, I was still creating content, but what I was talking about was what I was learning along the way. And part of what I was talking about was how the heck was I doing 3.5 years of a bachelor's degree in 11 months? And one of the ways I did that was through an ed tech company called Sophia Learning. And I talked about them on social media so much that they have reached out to me and done an interview with me to use me in their marketing materials. And then recently, somebody else that I met through Trevor, who has an audience of almost 19,000 people, featured me and the campaign on his LinkedIn newsletter to an audience of 20,000 people, 19,000 something. So you get out of the room, you do something different, get into new rooms, even if they're virtual, and different things can happen. Being visible doesn't guarantee you an opportunity, but if you don't get visible, you're guaranteed to miss it. So then there was Joe. Joe is the gentleman that I met in this room. I was up here at this front table, one of these front tables. We broke into networking. Joe comes up and he's like, hey, you look like somebody I want to know. We started chatting, we connected. And then we connected on LinkedIn, and then I started engaging with Joe's content, commenting on his posts. Then we started texting each other, and now we talk on the phone and text and all this stuff. Joe didn't hire me, but he definitely helped me get visible for other people, and we'll hear more about that later. So when you're getting active and visible, you want to share your expertise, but not your secret sauce. So if you will think about, and the pit crew talks about star stories all the time, if you will talk about one of your accomplishments in your career that you are so proud of, you are most proud of this one accomplishment, Get that story in your head and hold on to it. The one thing that fell apart when you left, the biggest thing you've done, whatever it is, you're super proud of it, get that story in your head. You're going to be able to, as you learn to create content, you will be able to go in and out of that star story a whole bunch of different ways. You can use that star story to engage with people's comments or comment on other people's posts online. You can use that star story in an interview. You can use it to create your own posts. And it's not always the whole star story. Sometimes it's just a little bitty piece of it that you're using. But you can get in and out of those stories, which really helps you when you are in that situation where you're in an interview or you're in a room like this and somebody says, "So what do you do?" And it helps you navigate those quickly and succinctly. So your value proposition is your North Star. Your value is what you bring. What were you put here, like Pastor Steve said earlier, what were you put here to do? What is the one thing you bring to every table in every room that you walk into, no matter what it is? That is your value proposition. That is your North Star. And as you are getting visible in rooms, online, whatever, you need to answer one question. What problem do I help solve? And that needs to be the theme of everything you do online, whether it is a comment on someone else's post or a post of your own or something that a conversation you're having at a table in this room. What is the one problem I solve? How do I help somebody? And that needs to be your North Star always. And then there was Chris. So from Joe's real active online. He's a big-time networker online. And one day, this guy named Chris posted on LinkedIn, and he tagged Joe. I don't remember what the post was, but I went out and I connected via comment on Chris's post. I don't know, something silly about Joe, probably. And Chris reached out to me. "Hey, thanks for looking at my content and engaging. I was looking at your profile, and I see that you do this kind of work. I would really like to talk about how we can work together." I would love to have that conversation, Chris. Let's do it. Then we had an interview. Since then, Chris's company, which I had never heard of before, ever, Chris's company has become one of my target companies. If I ever went to work for a company again, and I've since started my own business, so we'll see. But if I ever go back to work for a company, Chris's company is the one I want to be in. And so when I was actively really hard pushing and trying to find those target companies and connections in, one of their people actually invited me into the door. Him and 2 other people have since introduced me to the CEO and founder of his company. I don't have a job there, but I have a relationship with that CEO. I have even seen where the CEO has posted, "I'm looking for somebody who can do X." Well, that's not me, but I know somebody. And I will do a personal DM with the CEO and that person and say, "Hey, you two should talk." And so I have connected him with people who I think might fit his needs a little bit. So bringing value to him, maybe one day will bring value through that relationship back to me, but either way, I helped somebody else. And that is one of the things that I do no matter what room I'm at, no matter what table I'm at, I'm always trying to help somebody else. And I do that by not making my job search about me, but about how I can help other people. So how do you share your value without sharing your secret sauce? What's the difference? Value is what you solve. Your secret sauce is how you solve it. So when I'm creating content on social media, mostly LinkedIn, but I do Instagram and Facebook too. But when I'm creating content, I will share a framework for how I've done something, but I don't give every single detail in how I did it. A framework might be, once upon a time, I created one automation at work that reduced our admin work hours by 2,080 hours a year. That's what I did. And I did it by analyzing the work we were doing, looking at what really needed to be done, and building an automation that served the whole team. That's my framework. But I don't tell, all of the nitty-gritty. Nobody wants to hear the nitty-gritty. So I don't tell all the nitty-gritty, but it's just enough, hopefully, to get somebody to see my value and engage on LinkedIn and connect. So when I'm posting and creating content or commenting, if creating content is the scariest thing in the world for you, I'm not going to stand here and convince you have to do it. But if you think that maybe you might want to, go to Trevor's thing, because he's really, really good at helping you do that. Go to Trevor's thing. He can help teach you and guide you and give you all these tips and tricks. But what to share and what not to share. Definitely share your before and after stories, your lessons learned, your outcomes and transformations. Don't share your internal workflows or your own intellectual properties or confidential tools or systems, client names. I've heard people say, well, I can't get active on LinkedIn because I still have a job and I'm working for a company. Okay, why? Does that company own you? Does that company own you, your name, your brand, your value? Does that company own the kind of work you do? And I get it, there are rare situations where maybe, but it's you, it's your brand. It's not your company's brand. So your LinkedIn profile needs to be about you, not your company that you worked for or whatever. It needs to be you, what you do. And you can talk about your work in general terms. I have a client right now that, I have a couple clients, and I have one that when they came to me, they wanted me to fix can you help us fix our operations? It's kind of a mess. They're a construction company. They had 10 active projects going on, and I said, send me your information. He sent me one Word document with like 2 pages of bullet points, and that's how he managed 10 construction projects across the state of Texas. Y'all, my head hurt just looking at it. I was like, oh my gosh. So I helped him, I dug in and helped analyze and research different dashboards and, how they work and what they're doing and where they want to go and all of this stuff to help streamline his processes and build a dashboard for him. But see, I just told you that story without naming who he is or any of the other stuff. Nobody knows who I'm working for. But you get the idea of what I did to help streamline his life. And in the first 30 days, we managed to successfully close out 5 jobs, and I'll tell you that was not easy to do because it was a disaster. Know that you are everything you need. You're not trying to create expertise. You already have it. You're just trying to show it, to reveal it so other people can see your expertise. Why visibility matters and why we all hold back, why we might hold back. When my job ended in 2024, I was certain that I had a strong network of people. I had worked with, 500 people easily for 20 years who knew me. They knew my value. They knew what I did. They knew what I brought to the table. But you know what? Not a single one of them stepped up to help me find a job. Not one. So you might think you have the great network when your job ends. Probably not. So you got to get visible. Maybe not. I hope you do. I hope your network is like my sister's network. My sister's got this network, and she said, like 3 weeks ago, I'm going to be looking for a new job soon. I can't use my network to help you. I'm going to use it to help me. And I was like, wow, okay. You be that way. And I was talking to her about a week ago, and she's like, well, yeah, so I'm starting this new job. I'm like, seriously? 2 weeks? I mean, she's got like the magic network, but she hoards it. So it really doesn't do me any good. So, know that you may have to expand and build a new network. But I see 3 main reasons why we might hold back from getting visible. 1, we are uncertain. That job ends, It hits us in the gut and the heart and the soul, and it rips a piece of us out, and all of a sudden we feel like we're not valuable. But we are valuable. We do have something to bring to the table and something to share and offer. We shouldn't allow that uncertainty to hold us back. But too often we do. Another one is sounding too self-important. I can stand here and tell you how awesome I am all day long because I am awesome. But that didn't do any good, right? But if you are backing your awesome up with your metrics and sharing those star stories and bits and pieces of those star stories, it's not boasting. Newsflash, you're in sales, you're the product, you have to sell you. And you sell you not by going out and saying, do you want to buy my services? You sell you by saying, this is my expertise, this is what I bring to the table, and this is part of how I bring it to the table. And just show your value in soft, subtle ways. Other ways is revealing too much. I've created some intellectual properties, and through my last job, I created intellectual properties that when my job ended and they asked, hey, can we keep that and that and that? I was like, absolutely not. That's mine. It goes with me. There's no contract that says I have to give it to you. I'm out of here and that's going with me. I was nice enough to dumb it down and take all my magic sauce out of it and dumb it down so they had the information they needed to, at a minimum, to do their job. I gave them a minimum viable product, and I took the rest of the stuff with me. And when I talk online about what I do or how I do something, it's always minimum viable product that I'm talking about. I'm not giving everything away. That one's really slow. Invisibility means you miss valuable connections and insightful conversations. You've got to get visible if you want to have those meaningful conversations with people. So if you're visible, but you have no clarity on who you are, what you do, what you bring, your North Star, your value proposition, you are only adding noise into the world if you're not adding value. But if you're clear on who you are, but you're invisible, well, now you're just missing opportunities. And that's not going to do you any good either. So you need to use your influence, which is how you influence, is how you tell your stories and talk about it. And if you really want to know about influence, Dr. Brenda Carter spoke here last year sometime on the art of influence and interviewing. She's brilliant. I encourage you to go to the website and watch that. But influence is how you tell people who you are, what you do, and get people to buy into your messaging. And you can use AI to help you sharpen that message. And then there was Amy. So again, I met Joe here in this room. Joe and I became friends. Meanwhile, Joe and Amy were friends. And Amy was, again, posting on LinkedIn. She was engaging with Joe, and I jumped in the middle of one of those conversations because one of my star stories connected to what they were talking about. I jumped in, and I started engaging with Amy's content. That went on for a while on LinkedIn, just commenting on her posts, commenting on Joe's posts that tagged her, whatever. Eventually, I sent Amy a connection request. I have since had her on my podcast. She is a retained recruiter who owns her own boutique company here in Dallas. And when Amy and I were talking, she said, by the time you connected with me and sent me that connection request, accepting your request was a no-brainer. I already knew you. I already knew who you were, what you did, and I already trusted you. So I just had to accept and get to know you more. And so now Amy is somebody in my network that I reach out and we communicate every now and then. Get visible. But for your influence to work, you want to have some strategy into it. You build in a little bit of strategy because that strategy is going to show your credibility, help you make connections, and it's really going to showcase your clarity in who you are and what you do. Visibility builds familiarity. Familiarity builds trust. Trust builds opportunity, just like with Amy. And Amy has my resume, and she knows what I do. And who knows where that leads, right? You never know when that opportunity that came from that door that I opened through commenting on someone else's stuff happens. Most all of my opportunities and relationships that I have built through LinkedIn, most all of them started with comments on other people's stuff. And I've gotten some great relationships out of this. So how do you show your influence via comment engagement? Well, let's go back to that star story that you have in your head, right? That thing that you're just so proud of. Once upon a time, Brian was a third-level connection of mine on LinkedIn. I didn't know this guy existed. But I had interviewed I wanted to interview at a company. I was interested in learning more. I went to a friend of mine and said, hey, Dennis, you're connected to Conway. Can you make that introduction? I met with Conway. Conway and I got to know each other. Conway was on my podcast. And from Conway, as I created this podcast, I put information out there about the podcast on LinkedIn about Conway, and Brian was one of Conway's friends. So I went from Dennis to Conway to Brian. Brian commented on the post. Brian and I started having a conversation in comments. Then I started reading Brian's conversations and content that he created and commenting over there. And now we converse back and forth all the time in comments, in DMs. We're always talking. And it's not a one and done. When I respond to someone's content, it's not great post. Love that. That's super. Congrats. Those aren't the kinds of comments I leave. I leave comments like, this really resonated with me because, and if I can connect it to one of my star stories, I will pull a tiny little snippet of that star story out and put it in the comments. And I can't tell you how often, this right here is an example of that one conversation. Brian reposted someone else's stuff with his own thoughts, which if you're gonna repost someone else's stuff as a content creator, the content creators in the room will get it. We love when people repost our stuff. But if you're gonna repost it with your own thoughts. Why are you reposting it? Give us some insight into you. And that's what Brian did, and Brian and I went back and forth, 3 or 5 times on this conversation, chatting back and forth about whatever it was. It's just like having a conversation at this table, only the table is behind the keyboard. For you introverts, this is easier. But how do you use AI to sharpen that? So if I wasn't really sure how I wanted to respond to Brian's post, I can go into AI, I can copy his post out of LinkedIn, and I can throw it into AI and say, okay, act as a project manager, an attorney, a controller, a whatever you are, act as this personality. And in 40 words, because otherwise AI gets real chatty, I give it 40 words. In 40 to 50 words, help me connect this story, and then I give it my star story, to this post. And then it will give me something, and then I'll tweak it and whatever. In the beginning, I leaned on AI for that a lot because I just wasn't connecting the dots naturally in my own head. But now I almost never lean into AI for my comments. It's just there. It just happens. I also learned about this studying. Again, she's somebody that I got to know a little bit on LinkedIn through Trevor. She and I will comment on each other's posts, and she has a gift of the comment. No matter what she's commenting on, she manages to tie it back to what she does. I don't think there's this person on the planet who has heard her name who doesn't know what she does. If they don't know, they're not paying attention. Because no matter what it is, she'll comment on it, and she says, I see this a lot in contracts. And then she'll lay it out how she sees it in contracts. Or I see this a lot in how AI and contracts work together. And she's always connecting it back to what she does. And then she also almost always leaves her comment to my content or anybody else's with a question. I like what you said here. I see this in what I do. how do you see this in, whatever? And she asks a question in hopes of taking that conversation deeper. It is remarkable to watch her work. I've learned a lot from her. So identify content formats that work. This is going to be different for everybody. We've talked about how to engage via comments. Now let's assume that you're ready to dip your toe in or dive deep into content creation, whatever, right? So some of the things that I have found net me the best interaction and impressions and engagement on LinkedIn include lessons learned, behind-the-scenes leadership, frameworks, we already mentioned that, not full playbooks, and many case studies. I, in my career, have spent a lot of time managing some big projects and some big programs and things like that. When I was going for my PMP certification, I got randomly selected for an audit. I got to prove my experience I had to submit actual project management plans that backed up all the work I did. In my last job, we didn't use project management plans. We just did the work. I didn't know they were a thing until I was going for my PMP certification. So I had to learn how to write a project management plan so that I could submit to get my PMP certification. But now those project management plans are amazing case studies. And just like my star stories, I go in and out of those things and grab and pull little bits and pieces of information to use for my comment engagement or my content creation. You're not posting to prove you know something. You're posting to show the problems you solve. So sources of content that I use, my career story. I'm not going to talk about what that is. If you want to know what my career story is and how I created it, the QR code's on your table. Pictures and memories. Those things, your Facebook pops up and says, 20 years ago today, looking back on your memories, and it'll pop up with a memory or a picture. And those memories that pop into your head, a lot of times you can connect those to what you do. And I have an example of that here in a few minutes. Project management plans, powerful quotes, thought leaders, things like that. Books I've read, shows I've watched, podcasts I've listened to, or guests I've had on my podcast, workshops I've attended, this one, if I said something in here, or even if something Pastor Steve really, really resonated with you, you can take that and what resonated with you, throw it into AI, and have AI help you write a post to connect what resonated with you with what you do and the value you bring. And there's your post. It doesn't have to be hard. I post 7 days a week. I maybe average 5 to 10 minutes per post, and that's including the time I spend creating my graphic to go with it. All of my posts have a graphic or a video of some sort. And an extra bonus, if you tag the person who inspired you, they might actually connect with you and engage, and that will help drive attention to your profile. Use the bridge anytime you're creating content or commenting or getting visible or any conversation ever. And I think the same is true in your star stories and your interviews, and if you go to the Pit Crew, you'll hear it. Know the problem you solved, the action you took to solve it, the result, and the lesson you learned doing it. It's one thing for me to say, I was working 60 hours a week, home office came in and created new email protocols that added 8 hours a week just on inbox management to me. And I couldn't maintain that. That was not a sustainable pace, so I had to do something different. So I created an automation workflow to automate my emails. And that one workflow that I created reduced my workload by 2,080 hours. Y'all, that is, if you've not done the math and you divide that, that is one person's workload a year. That is one 40-hour person for an entire year. I deleted that from our work, which basically saved my boss an entire salary if she had been paying salary, or we were salary, but if we'd been hourly, that would have saved her, a year's worth of salary, which is pretty good. But then there's the lesson that I learned in that. What lesson did I learn? And the lesson was stop trying to be a hero and just absorb all of the work and be like, no, it's fine. I'll manage. So I learned how to not be a hero, but how to automate and stop absorbing the shock and redistribute the shock somewhere else. And I redistributed it through automation and AI. So using AI to sharpen your message, we talked about how a picture can remind you of something. So once upon a time, and it's probably about 6 years ago now, my daughter was competing at the national level with an Arabian horse in dressage. I don't know if you guys know what dressage is or if you've ever watched it, but it's super hoity-toity equestrian stuff. I mean, these people, they're hoity-toity. And here we are running in this world, right? And she was at the national competition. This is not the place to look shabby. You got to look on point for this. We've worked way too hard to not be on point. And this picture popped up. I was always in charge as the operations person, the behind-the-scenes integrator. I make it work so the person with the vision and the magic can stand up and look pretty. I'm the one that gets them there. And that was my job, even for my daughter and the horse. So here I am in a stall in Oklahoma, sweat dripping in my eyes and whatever, and I'm braiding this horse's mane. And I have learned that certain braids work better than other braids. And sometimes if I braided, I've got to braid tight enough that it holds, but it's got to be loose enough that he could put his head down. And if I braid it too tight and he puts his head down, then the whole thing pops apart and he just looks crazy. So this picture popped up, and it is, to this day, the best braid I ever did. I was so proud of it. It's my own little star story that had nothing to do with work. But it popped up, and so it's like, ooh, write a post from this POV about how this braid connects to what I do as operations, as an operations person, right? And it's called a button braid. And here you can kind of see the braid a little bit. But I took that picture that popped up, and I put it in a graphic, removed the background, and here's just a snippet of the post of how a button braid in a horse's mane is like operations and process design. You would never really think to connect that, right? But it's something different. And, we'll see how that post performs. It hasn't gone live yet. But it's scheduled. That's the other thing I do. On LinkedIn, I don't get on LinkedIn every single morning and write a new post every morning. I spend an hour a week and schedule out for a week or two. I learned that from Trevor. Create your content up front, break it out into different pieces. And so I don't do a post every day. I post a post every day, but I'm not writing it every day. And then there was Candace. So Candace, I already talked about her a little bit. Joe came to me in December and said, hey, I want to introduce you to somebody. She's got an opportunity that I think sounds really interesting. Sure, Joe. And so then I was introduced to Candace. Candace nominated me for this Woman of Impact nominee campaign. I have never run a fundraising campaign, ever. But I had an interest in learning more about nonprofit because I've never worked in nonprofit, and here nonprofits knocking on my door, asking me for help. And I was like, I don't know anything about doing this. I am not qualified to do this. But as I talked with Candace, she was like, do you know anybody who's ever been, and she started out by asking me for a story. Do you know anybody who's ever been impacted by heart health? Well, yeah, I do. And I can name the people. Some are still here, some are not still here. And I just had a host of people that came to mind, including my cousin, who is my age, and she was probably 25, and she had a stroke. And it was a bad one, and they had to take a piece of her skull out to relieve the pressure and all this stuff. And so she's got this major traumatic brain injury. She had to relearn how to walk and how to talk and how to eat and she had to relearn everything. And it changed her physical features were changed because of it. Her entire life flipped. She was in her 20s and she had 2 kids and she's having to go through this. And just the other day I saw her post online that she had pulled into a handicap spot and she got out of the car and was walking in and somebody was yelling at her, "Well, you don't look handicapped to me." And her post was about maybe don't judge what you can't see, because you can't see the traumatic brain injury. And the fact that she actually, she walks great for, 15, 20 steps, and then she has to take a break and, start over and kind of thing. So there were all of these connections that started coming out for me, and I thought, I have to do this to raise awareness for that, and that campaign is getting me into all kinds of rooms, and my network has already grown. I don't even know how many people and new connections and new people I've met and conversations I've had, some of them about business and some of them about the campaign. It has given me cause to reconnect with friends and family who did have heart issues that I had lost touch with. We've reconnected. And who knows where it's going to go. And in one of those rooms that I went into, my 2 accountability partners who are not here today, I actually was able to take them into the room with me, which got them into a new room with new people. And it was funny, they were the only 2 men in the room of women. And so they all kept going, "Nikki, why are you here?" And Nikki's 2 gentlemen, let's hear from you. I'm like, this sounds really funny. But they both got the opportunity to get the mic. And here they are at a fancy luncheon at the Dallas Country Club in job transition, and they've just been given the mic and asked to say something about why they're there. And they stood up and said why they were there, but then they said, "And oh, by the way, I'm in job transition. This is what I do. This is what I'm looking for." And that opened the door for more connections and conversations, and I saw them having those conversations and connections. So who knows what's going to happen with that, right? So we're going to wrap. Look, I'm going fast. So we're going to wrap up, and I'm going to give you an activation strategy. If you do nothing else, this is a strategy that you can use to get more visible today, even if you don't ever go to the far side like I have, where you're creating content 7 days a week. If you don't do that, you know what, that's fine. But you have to be more visible. Maybe, if you may already be visible. But you've got to get visible with strategy if you really want to get seen. So where do you start? First, my advice, make sure your LinkedIn profile is fully optimized. It needs to talk to what you're known for, what you repeatedly help with, and how you help with that without giving the secret sauce away. It should have a short section about your credibility. In mine, I've got all of my jobs and past jobs down at the bottom. Chances of anybody really scrolling down and reading all of the things I did at the job that I had for 27 years is pretty slim. It was a lot. So instead, I have, and I do the same thing on my resume, but from all of that experience, I have extracted my top 3 or 4 major career milestones, the biggest things I've accomplished in my career that moved the needle the most. And that is on my profile about section, as, it offers credibility to what I do, why I do it, right? And if you're going to create content, you can put a little something in there that touches on what you talk about when you are creating content. If you're not going to create content, leave that out. And leave a call to action for your target audience. My target audience, now that I've started my own business, is CEOs, business owners, small business owners, founders, things like that. And so I have optimized this and given a call to action for that target audience. I've been very intentional with it. And I probably have one business owner, CEO, or founder every other day sending me a connection request through LinkedIn. So I'm getting a lot of inbound connections from my profile and my content. So the second thing I say to do is identify one person to follow and engage with them. And follow them. Go online, follow them, ring their bell, and tell it to give you all notifications, and get strategic in how you use LinkedIn. I am almost never on my live feed, almost never. I have all these people that I've connected with that I really, really like the content they create. So I've gone to their profile, followed them, rang the bell, and said, give me all notifications. So each morning I go to my LinkedIn profile, I go up to my notifications, and it says, Ron Layton posted this. And I go look and see what Ron posted, and I comment on Ron. Then I go back to my notifications, and I go look and see what Trevor posted, and I comment on Trevor's. And then I go back to my notifications, what did Pete post? And I comment or like or share or forward or whatever on the different things. And it takes me maybe 10 minutes a day to get through all of the ones I want to do. Don't doom scroll. If you're doom scrolling on LinkedIn, you're not looking for a job, you're not networking, you're not building relationships. So get strategic. Know your ask. I've had two major messages that I send people on LinkedIn. One when I was, and I'm doing it again now, but one when I started my job search, right after I got really strategic with my job search, and I did Trevor's first workshop and created myself a video resume and got it online. Actually, I did my video resume before I did his workshop because I listened to his podcast. But anyway, I had an ask, and I created a post saying, hey, I'm looking for work. This is what I'm looking to do, whatever. So I have a message that I will send, and I went back through probably, at the time, I had 1,000 connections, and I know I sent it to at least 800 of them. Hey, Ron, I haven't talked to you in a long time. I wanted to let you know what's going on with me. I'm looking for a job doing this. I've created this video resume. I would really love it if you could engage with it. Comment, share it, like it, something, because it could help me land in the right door at the right time. And then because that video was embedded in a post in LinkedIn, I copied the link to my LinkedIn post into my message. So Ron would get a little thumbnail of the video. And now, all of a sudden, so he knows I'm not asking him to click on something suspicious or sketchy or anything. I'm not taking him any place that's going to hurt his computer. It's not anything weird. And I have given him a specific way he can help me. And probably 90% of the people I sent that message to clicked on it and hit like. Some of them commented. Some of them took it upon themselves to respond to me with criticism. And I said, thank you very much for your feedback. And then I just went on with my life. But that's a lot of people who are, people want to help us, but they don't know how to help us. Have an ask and make the ask. And if you can have a video in it, all the better. And if you don't know how to do videos, go see Trevor. Go see Trevor. Trevor, did you know this was like a show for you? Another ask I have is, so that I had an ask for people I've been connected with for a long time, but then I had another ask for people that I just connected with. So, when I met James for the first time, we connected, and as soon as I got back to my computer, guess what? James got a message. Hey, James, thanks for connecting. It sure was great to meet you today. If I can do anything to be of help, please let me know. In the meantime, I'm looking for this. Here's my video resume. Would sure love if you would engage with it. I had an ask. I didn't know him, but I gave him a way to help me. And he did, too. And James and I have talked back and forth a whole bunch of times, whatever. Have an ask, know your ask. I have used this approach for the Women of Impact campaign, for my job search, for, hey, I'm starting my own business, wanted to let you know what I'm doing. I'm looking for a connection in this company. Can you help? And because I've already activated my network and they have responded with a connection, I've just warmed them up. And now it feels so much easier and more natural for me to go say, hey, Foster, could you make this introduction to Ron for me? Now I feel like I'm less usy, right? Because we've already been talking back and forth a little bit, and I've warmed that up. Know your ask. Make the ask. They can't help if you don't ask. And my final step, identify your bandwidth. Whatever you do now, can you sustain it after you get your next job? If you can't sustain what you're doing, then back off a little bit. If you can handle a little bit more, then put the gas pedal on a little bit more. But whatever you do now to get visible, it needs to be sustainable when you get your new job, because that new job may or may not last for the next 27 years. And if it doesn't, you want to already have your network warmed up, and you don't want to be starting over from scratch when that job ends again, right? I mean, Foster, how often do people come back through here that have been through here before? I believe you're sitting next to one. There's one back here, right? So there's one back there. Keep your network active and warm and engaged, and even if you're not doing anything more than posting once a week when you're working your full-time job, stay active. Keep your profile relevant. And it is going to go so much farther for you. Don't do what Nikki did and get complacent with your in-person network and think, I don't need that LinkedIn. I had 80 connections when I lost my job in June of 24. I have 2,079 today. And I have had conversations with 80% of them. Sometimes they're short conversations, hey, thanks for connecting. If I can be a help, let me know. Here's this video. Oh, I would love to do that. Great, thanks. Sometimes they're short conversations. But I have had a conversation of some sort with roughly 80% of them. So it is a lot. You're right. I spent a lot of time doing that. And it's backed off a little bit now. I've slowed down. I've eased the pedal off of the connecting, and focusing on building that. I've backed off of that a little bit to focus more on other ventures, and I do have a couple clients I'm consulting with, and so work. I backed off of that, but I didn't back off of my content creation. So identify, really look at where you're spending your energy, how you're spending it, how you're utilizing your time, and look for ways to get more strategic. And if you haven't figured it out, that's so what I do every day. I'm all about efficiency. If you post once or more a week, yay, bonus, right? Right, Trevor? Get active, get posting. So here's a repeatable plan. We're going to sum this all up with something that you can do on repeat. First, build your foundation. Strengthen your profile. Second, get visible. Stop doom scrolling. Get active in who you follow and how you engage. If you're doom scrolling, you're wasting your energy and your impact, in my opinion. Engage with your target audience and connections. If your target audience if accounting firms are your target audience, then you need to be finding accounting firms. You need to be finding accountants. You need to be finding, people in that world. That needs to be your bread and butter. If you're an attorney and contracts are your thing, man, you need to be following Olga because she is the queen of contracts. Know your audience and target them strategically. Again, I spend 5 to 10 minutes per post. This is not a huge time commitment for me. And so if you get strategic with it and you have your stories, this is something that is sustainable. Most of us can come up with 5 minutes once a week to post something to show what we bring to the table. And look for opportunities. Opportunities are all over the place in LinkedIn. Respond to DMs. Send DMs. If you send that ask out and somebody responds to it, respond to them. And sometimes the response that you get is, all right, that's really hard to respond to, actually. It's like, thumbs up. How do I respond to that? So it takes me a minute to think about how to respond to that. But if you respond, and if somebody offers to help you, then open that door, have that conversation, jump on an informational interview, get to know them. How could they possibly help you? I've met a lot of great recruiters that way, actually. And cold outreach, it is not easy, but if I can't find an introduction into my target company and I'm targeting, if Lolita is the CEO of a company and I want to target her company, but I can't find an introduction, y'all, it's not easy, but I'm not afraid to send her a message. I will send Lolita a message. Yes, she will too. I will send her a message, hey, Lolita, but I connect it back authentically to her. And that's the whole point. Take your value, that one thing you bring, that one problem you solve, and even in all of this, it needs to feed into that. I solved this problem. How does that matter to Lolita? Why does she care? In marketing, they call that WEFM. What's in it for me? Only the me is them. You're trying to sell me something, but what's in it for me? Why do I care? So open the doors. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what's coming in your DMs. Identify what you want and take ownership in making it happen. Don't wait for someone else. You know what? I posted that one post on LinkedIn that said, I'm looking for a job. I'm waiting. You're still going to be here 2 years later if that's all you ever do. Take ownership. Know what you want and take ownership and make it happen. And on your table is the QR code to the presentation I did for Jeff's group on identifying your value proposition. So if you don't know the value that you bring, or you're not really sure how to use it or how to start or anything else, that presentation will walk you through at least how I did it, how I wrote out my entire career story, and I used that career story and all of the things that go into it, and how I use that with AI for content creation, inspiration, whatever. I use it all the time. I built my own custom GPT with all of my files built into it. And then let's connect. If we're not connected, I'm happy to help you however I can, answer questions, do whatever I can, and I will be back for Q&A after networking. That's it for me.